Good morning. Please join me in the singing of our hymn, Come Sing a Song with Me. Sing as if I can hear you. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Good morning. My name is Rick Cousins. I am the chairman of the Sunday Services Committee, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the online service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. We're very glad that you are here and able to join us this morning, and together in community, we can ensure that social distancing does not mean social disengagement. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies. It is the forming of a sacred time that we have been making together for the last 199 years as we work to build a more just world. Whether you are well versed in technology of teleconferencing or not, we welcome you. For those of you new among us or are reconnecting with fonder hearts, we invite you to introduce yourselves and where you're connecting from in the chat box as you are comfortable. After our service, we invite you to stay and participate in a breakout group for individual connections and deeper check-ins. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our website and Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may feel isolated at this time and might benefit from a spiritual connection with our loving community. Announcements for this week. Please know that weather permitting, tomorrow we will be men conversing over coffee. It will be outdoors at the Ridge House. So if you'd like to join us for that, please feel free. If you have questions, reach out to Gary or Joe. FYI, all of the UU services will remain virtual until after the homecoming. And we have several smart people who are keeping track of the status of the virus, and we're going to try to reopen as soon as possible, but we still want to keep safe at the same time. We also want to acknowledge that our building sits on Pawgasset land. Again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in the spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service. It is now my pleasure to turn things over to the minister, Zeb Green, who has a degree in Masters of Divinity from the Star King College for the ministry. He currently serves a border community of El Paso, and Ciudad Juarez in Texas. Thank you. Welcome, Reverend Green.
Thank you so much, Rick. Today, for our opening words, we will read from Abraham Heschel, who is a Jewish, or was a Jewish rabbi, mystic, and philosopher. The beginning of faith is not a feeling for the mystery of living or a sense of awe, wonder, or fear. The root of religion is the question of what to do with the feeling for the mystery of living, what to do with awe, wonder, or fear. Now, invite Deb Casey to lead us in our chalice lighting affirmation.
Thank you, Reverend Zeb. I'm going to give you a moment to grab your chalice and to light it, and then together we will say our affirmation. I can get my matches to work today. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And now, if there are any children among us, please come forward to the screen so we can see you. We're going to do our children's affirmation together, and afterwards, Reverend Zeb is going to share a story with us. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other.
Thank you. Our story today is Ish by Peter H. Reynolds. Ramon loved to draw. Anytime, anything, anywhere. One day, Ramon was drawing a vase of flowers. His brother Leon leaned over his shoulder. Leon burst out laughing. "What is that?" he asked. Ramon could not even answer. He just crumpled up the drawing and threw it across the room. Leon's laughter haunted Ramon. He kept trying to make his drawings look right, but they never did. After many months and many crumpled sheets of paper, Ramon put his pencil down. "I'm done." Marisol, his sister, was watching him. "What do you want?" he snapped. "I was watching you draw," she said. Ramon sneered. "I'm not drawing. Go away." Marisol ran away, but not before picking up a crumpled sheet of paper. "Hey, come back here with that." Ramon raced after Marisol, up the hall and into her room. He was about to yell, but fell silent when he saw his sister's wall. He stared at the crumpled gallery. "This is one of my favorites," Marisol said, pointing. "That was supposed to be a vase of flowers," Ramon said, "but it doesn't look like one." "Well, it looks vase-ish," she exclaimed. "Vase-ish?" Ramon looked closer. Then he studied all the drawings, Marisol's walls, and began to see them in a new way. "They do look ish," he said. Ramon felt light and energized. Thinking ishly allowed his ideas to flow freely. He began to draw what he felt, loose lines quickly springing out without worry. Ramon once again drew and drew the world around him, making an ish drawing felt wonderful. He filled his journals, tree-ish, house-ish, boat-ish, afternoon-ish, fun-ish, fish-ish, sun-ish. Ramon realized he could draw his feelings too, peace-ish, silly-ish, excited-ish. His Ish art inspired Ish writing. He wasn't sure if he was writing poems, but he knew they were poem-ish. One spring morning, Ramon had a wonderful feeling. It was a feeling that even Ish words and Ish drawings could not capture. He decided not to capture it. Instead, he simply savored it. And Ramon lived Ishfully ever after. The end. Ish.
Thank you, Reverend Zeb. That inspires me to kind of get my drawing journals back out. And now it is time for our spoken milestones. We are a community that uplifts and supports each other, and as such, we share our joys and our sorrows. Please take this opportunity to share with us things that are lightening your heart and things that are making them heavy in the chat while Nancy plays for us. Thank you, Nancy. It is now time for our congregational offering. If you're a guest with us here today, we're so happy that you've joined us, and we invite you to pass our virtual plate. Members and friends, you know what to do. You may contribute through the link that is going to be posted in the chat. You can also send a check to UUCD at 24 Clapboard Ridge Road. And now if you would join me in our congregational response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
Thank you, Nancy. So beautiful and so joyous to be even virtually in a space with live music. It has been something greatly missed. Music is, for me, just, and I'm sure many of us here, such a light and such a joy in this world. And in fact, this message that I'm coming today started by listening to some music, listening to a song by a great sage who inspires me time and time again, and has my whole life. This great sage who was sitting in the middle of a swamp plucking a banjo, our dear Kermit the Frog, for those who are familiar with the Muppets. And it's this line in the song The Rainbow Connection. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. What do we do on Sunday mornings if not try to seek that magic in everyday life? What do we try to do if not answer those questions of what is so amazing? And this great nebulous thing of amazing that we see when we look at the natural world. Stargazing is a beautiful experience. I remember one time, I will never forget this one time, driving through the desert in New Mexico in the middle of the night. No one was on the road. There were hardly any highway lights, and I kept seeing out the window the star line above me, just this huge expanse of stars like I've never seen before. And I've always loved being in the woods and getting away, and I've seen some magnificent skyline, but every star in the sky, it seemed, was visible to me. And it was not the safest driving at the time, because I'd be driving and I'd be looking up and I'd be like, this is so cool. And since no one was on the road except for me, I pulled to the side of the interstate and got out of the car to just take a few steps in the desert and look up. And as I was looking up, I was so overwhelmed. There was almost this sense of weightlessness, it felt like, looking up into those stars and seeing nothing but an endless expanse of light and more than my brain could comprehend. And it felt like if I had tripped or if I had fallen, I would have just fallen off into this expanse, into this just amazing beauty of the world. And it brought fully to the realm of what we talk about when we hear the words amazement, when we hear wonder, when we hear magic. And that was definitely a magical experience, and something that I have very few words to describe truly how that felt. And today I started with a reading from Abraham Heschel, who is a Jewish thinker who has inspired me so much. And he wrote about the sublime as being sort of a search for wisdom and the beginning root of creativity and the religious questions for humanity. And I kept trying to wrestle with how to describe the sublime. And since he's a greater thinker than I am, I'm just going to share some of his words. The sublime may be sensed in things of beauty as well as an act of goodness, and in the search for truth. The perception of beauty may be the beginning of the experience of the sublime. The sublime is that which we see and are unable to convey. It is the silent illusion of things to a meaning greater than themselves. It is that which our words, our forms, our categories can never reach. This is why the sense of the sublime must be regarded as the root of humanity's creative activities in art, thought, and noble living. Just as no flora has ever fully displayed the hidden vitality of the earth, so has no work of art, no system of philosophy, no theory of science ever brought to expression the depth of meaning, the sublimity of reality, and the sight of which the souls of saints, artists, and philosophers live. And it's such a relief to know that these great thinkers also struggle with the sublime. He writes so beautifully to say, I don't know, that there is a mystery in this world of beauty that speaks to our souls, but I don't know. It is Ish, the Ish we read for the children just earlier, that we see this beauty, we see this world, and we try to convey it, but our words, our forms, our structures never create the replica of what it is that we're looking at. We create only ish, we get close. And even in getting close, we find beauty, we find truth. Everything in our life is just trying to strive closer to that beautiful reality that we see. And Abraham Heschel continues, the sublime is not the ultimate. It is not the sublime as such of which the biblical man is aware. To him, the sublime is but a way in which things react to the presence of God. It is never an ultimate aspect of reality, a quality meaningful in itself. It stands for something greater. It stands in relation to something beyond itself that the eye can never see. And being a Jewish thinker, Abraham Heschel, of course, relates this to religion. He relates it to the Bible and relates it to the question of God. But in liberal religion and in Unitarian Universalism, we don't have that final answer. We don't say what is beyond the sublime. We allow each person to seek that truth themselves. And then we encourage each person to share what they've discovered and what they've discerned with the wider community so we can wrestle with that together. We live always in that tension of knowing that we have a shared experience of beauty, a shared experience of truth, a shared experience of wonder, creativity, and questions. But we can't force people to have the same answers that we have. And we shouldn't force people to have the same answers. All we can really ask is for people to come together and share what they believe and share what they've discerned together. And that's a big ask. It truly is, to ask someone to be vulnerable enough to say that this is what I believe, this is what I've discerned in this world of infinite mystery, this is my truth. And it's hard because we're in a culture that loves answers and we love concrete information. We're asking people to step into mystery with one another and describe what brings sources of mystery to them. For me today, I started with this talk with a quote from the Muppets. The quote from Kermit the Frog is my source of truth and wisdom. And one of the first things I learned in seminary was this strong encouragement to name our truth, to name our sources, whatever they might be, whether or not they might feel silly to some, and certainly to some. You know, the puppets, they're foam, they're plastic, they're talking. Is that necessarily a source of truth and meaning? Is that respectable enough? And so then I quickly put in Abraham Heschel to make sure. I'm like, well, look, I've brought in a great thinker, a great scholar. I'm taking this seriously. It's not just I watched the Muppets, so now I'm going to riff for 20, 30 minutes on the Muppets. But reading about the Muppets and watching the Muppets, hearing these stories of not just people acting, but when children would be brought on set, and even when adult actors would be brought on set, Jim Henson would have his hand in Kermit the Frog and they'd be talking. And watching the video, you wouldn't be able to see Jim Henson, but in person, he's right there. He's next to Kermit. Should be no illusion that there's a man there and this is a puppet. But everyone inevitably was drawn to talking directly to the Muppets, to the puppets themselves, to Kermit. And that's magic right there, where even where the illusion is shattered for people, the magic that this thing is still alive, this creativity is still alive, that this frog is really there and people want to talk to it. And they're like, yeah, we can see Jim Henson, but we don't want to talk to him. We want to talk to Kermit. I think that's magical, and that creates a whole world of beauty and endless possibility that I think we can all really resonate with. And as a community, our next step, we ask people to be vulnerable, but we also need to ask people to practice humility, and to know that when someone is sharing their truth and sharing their beauty and sharing what inspires them, that even if that's not, what inspires you, to use the phrase, don't yuck my yum, we try to enjoy everyone else's yum, being saying if someone finds this yummy, we don't go, ooh, that's not good. We just, you know, it becomes a potluck, and then I just bring my yum too, and I get to share it. So have that humility and that sense of wonder that someone else has experienced wonder. The greatest lesson I had for this was when I was an undergraduate, and I would sit in the dining hall. I was with a group of friends. We were quite nerdy, and we boldly claimed our table as the nerd table, because we just loved to just wrestle with whatever thought, whatever thing we could wrestle with. And one of our constant debates at the nerd table was, what's nerdier, math or literature? Because those were our two main people, the maths majors and the literature majors. And the math majors would, of course, argue that math was nerdier because it had the concrete answers that we need. With science and with mathematics, we can create the world and really hone in on the nuts and bolts of the world. And without it, how could really society function? How can we understand the world without the concrete nuts and bolts? And I was on the literature side, and I was saying, well, we need to understand the human condition. We need to understand what gives life meaning. We need to understand this. This is why it's nerdier. This is why this is the truer pursuit. And being at the time a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds, we didn't have the grace to go like, well, obviously we need both. we need this wonder. So we had our good-natured fights, but as the literature person, I need the mathematics people to understand this world. And I am so grateful that people have wonder in those concrete nuts and bolts of the reality, in places where my brain just kind of like raises question marks, and I go like, I can do 2 + 2. Anything after that, I need a calculator. And they were, of course, so grateful that there were people who were plumbing the depths of what is wonder, what is the human condition, what is meaning, and want to argue those. And as Unitarian Universalists, we of course have more than just math and literature as our disciplines. But we need to be this place where everyone brings those individual gifts together every week to help inspire community and help inspire explorations. And we exist in this tension of how to create churches and congregations that are those spaces of wonder and creativity. This last week, I've spent a lot of time watching some TV. I'm on vacation, I'm relaxing, and started watching this series about Disney Imagineering, which is Imagineers are a combination of imagination and engineering. And the Imagineering department are who create the Walt Disney theme parks. They set not just the rides, but within this realm, it's very important to them to be, every aspect is telling a story. And from the moment you walk in the gates of this park, you're transported into a new world of story, of wonder and imagination. These Imagineers get very passionate in describing that they want a place that's so unlike the rest of the world that you walk in and immediately you're transported to dreams, you're transported to wonder, and even the most serious people can feel free to dance in the streets. And as I was watching that, I was hearing them describe that, I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to create a place that has that much wonder and joy for people. And I want to be in a community where people focus on that much wonder and joy. And then I'm like, well, in religious community, that's exactly what I'm doing. And what we're doing together. And so just asking myself, really, what lessons can we take? How, when we describe, what music do we bring in, does it create the sense of wonder? When we talk, whose readings do we have, does it create that sense of wonder? And just in our day-to-day interactions with people, are we inspiring, are we nurturing each other? Are we practicing that vulnerability to share that will encourage other people to be vulnerable and share? Are we practicing that humility and saying, I don't have all the answers, and even the answers that I have are not enough, so I need your answers too. And of course, Disney is not the best place to learn ethical religious community. It is a corporation and it is a big business, and its purpose is to make money. So it's not our perfect example. And of course, Disney has one thing that makes it easy for them to create a false sense of wonder. That's harder for us because we as community encourage authenticity, and ministers and congregational leaders, everything is about authenticity and bringing your full self. Whereas those who work at Disney are cast members. They are not bringing their full selves. It is a job and they go home at the end of the day, and there's that barrier. And Disney goes even further by what I was really learning. The architecture of the parks have something called a burn around it. And this was a new term for me, a burn, B-E-R-N, which is a physical barrier they pushed and designed at the edge of the park so you cannot even see the outside world. All you can see when you're at a Disney park is Disney, and it's designed very, very intentionally to keep the outside world out, to keep problems of the outside away, to keep pain, to keep struggle, to keep all of that out. So there's only this place of wonder. And here in religious community, we want to knock down that barrier. The last thing we want is a burn. We invite people. We want everyone to bring the struggles that they have, their heartaches, their pain. We want people to see the heartache and pain of the rest of the world, because it's only in a place where that's real that we can really have true wonder, where we inspire people to share what's hurting them so we can together work as a community to end that pain. We can't have our deepest joys if we keep out our deepest sorrows. We can't have that real authenticity, real vulnerability, and real humility there's a burn separating us. So what's the best metaphor then for us as a community and as a place to really be a co-creation of wonder? And I think of maybe a laboratory or a workshop where we come and we bring our tools, we bring our projects, knowing that nothing's ever really going to be finished in this work of imagination, in this work of wonder, in this work of the sublime. Because we look at this world of of never quite conveying the truth that we see. And so we commit every day in this space to be our workshop, to be our learning laboratory, to practice, to get our hands messy with wonder and creativity. Always asking each other, what's next, and what do we mean, and what makes you come alive, and where are you hurting, and where can we have it? We have question after question. And above all, bring your sources of strength with you. Let us create a whole collage. So when people walk in this door, they see us in our full tapestry, all of our elements, all of our joy. I can bring my Muppet references. Other people can bring their great works of art, of classic literature, classic beauty, the religious symbols from different faiths that give people strength. And knowing that as we put them next to each other, not one thing takes away from another, but it's all just references to this greater mystery that's beyond. They are all true manifestations of our experience of wonder. And they are the ish that we have, the closest thing that we can write, or the closest thing that we can say, or the closest thing that we can draw to what I've experienced and what you've experienced. That we need to live our life in that tension of not knowing, but feeling this source of wonder and truth. And even if something's not necessarily the best depiction, or doesn't feel to me like it's the best depiction, I know that when someone brought it, they brought the truest and sincerest feeling that they have, and that feeling is beautiful and wonderful. And together in this feeling of wonder, someday we'll find it, that rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and all of us. Thank you so much. I'd like to now invite everyone into just a brief moment of silence and meditation, Perhaps imagine what is your source of wonder, as we've already asked people to do in the beginning, and sit with that joy for a moment. And please join us for our hymn of meditation, Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Move in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
It's now time for us to extinguish our chalices. Please join me in our shared declaration. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. Our closing hymn for today is Love Will Guide Us.
Love will guide us, peace has tried us, hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night. If you cannot sing like you cannot speak before thousands. Who can give from deep within you? You can change the world with your love. Love will guide us. Peace has tried us. Hope inside us will lead the way on the road from free to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
Closing words come from a reading from Christine Paintner in her book, The Artist Rule. Awe is a sign of allowing ourselves to be touched by beauty's transcendent quality. Wonder connects us to a childlike openness to the world's possibility. Holy curiosity calls us to remember that mystery is at the heart of the world. It calls us to break out of our tired vision of life. Beauty opens our heart wide like the lotus blossom, and we are slowly transformed. In this way, we are responsible for cultivating beauty in the world wherever we are, to participate in the world's transformation. This is our call as monks and artists. Thank you.